The NBA regular season is just weeks away from wrapping up, and after a long 7 months of basketball, we are finally at my favorite time of the year, and that's awards season. As an avid NBA fan, I like to view awards season as a snapshot of the entirety of the previous year, so younger fans can see where the league was at a certain point of time. But with new awards season rules, like positionless All-NBA and All-Defensive teams, voting is about to look very different. So today, I'm going to reveal to you my thoughtfully crafted award season picks, from who my MVP and DPOY is, to who I think deserve the 15 All-NBA spots this season. But before we get started, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel as we're on the road to 500 subscribers. It'd be greatly appreciated and help boost this channel to new viewers, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, let's dive into awards season and start out by talking about the MVP race. For the past month or so, the conversation around the NBA's MVP award centered around two stars in the West. But in the last couple of weeks, a third contender has entered the mix and shaken up the award race. And those three guys are Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the new addition to the mix, Luka Doncic. Let's start off by talking about the odds-on favorite, Nikola Jokic. The former two-time MVP knows what it takes to win the MVP award, and after finishing in second place last season to Joel Embiid, the reigning Finals MVP took his play up to another level, putting up a 26, 12, and 9 a night to lead the Nuggets to a top seed in the stacked Western Conference. But the numbers don't tell the full story for Jokic. In order to fully understand his greatness, you need to sit down and dissect his movements, why he makes certain passes, or why he directs traffic the way he does. It's only there that you're going to see why the media believes Jokic will win his third MVP in 4 years. However, this season, Jokic has stiff competition, most notably the breakout star of this season, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The counting stats have always been there for the 25-year-old, as he's shown all the signs in previous seasons of being a top player in this league one day. But no one knew his ascension to the top would start this season, as his 36 and 6 a night has led the Thunder to a top 3 seed in the West. A factor that could potentially come into play that would allow Shai to steal this MVP award is his defense. His efforts on that side of the ball has led him to running away with the steals leading title, and if he finishes the year strong, he may have a case to make an all-defensive team too. But slowly throughout hardcore NBA fans, Shai is losing his stature as a top 2 MVP candidate. Instead, the surging Maverick star Luka Doncic may have just stolen this award from Jokic and Shai. We all know how great Luka Doncic is, but since the All-Star break, Luka has somehow gone up another level, leading the Mavericks to a 13-7 record while pushing for a top 4 seed in the West. And with the only knock against Luka this season being his team's subpar performance, if he can take over the Clippers as the 4th seed, there's no reason why Luka won't be this year's MVP. Just looking at the basic stats should tell you the whole story. Luka's 34, 10, and 9 a night is something we've seen only once in the modern NBA, and that's Russell Westbrook's 2017 MVP season. The only difference here is that Westbrook finished 6th in the Western Conference standings, and Doncic has a chance to finish 4th, just behind the MVP favorite Jokic's team. If you asked me who was going to be the MVP just a week ago, or even a couple days ago, I probably would lean towards Jokic taking this award home. But if Luka keeps playing at this level, I can't deny the Slovenian star his first MVP when he's playing at such a high level. So for that reason, I'm going with Luka Doncic as this year's NBA MVP. Now let's move on to my All-NBA teams. Obviously, the three guys I mentioned before in Luka, Jokic, and SGA will make it onto first team All-NBA for me. And my 4th selection has to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has kept the Bucks as a top seed in the East, despite this being one of the worst case scenario seasons the Bucks could have had. After Damian Lillard is playing inconsistent, Chris Middleton has missed almost half the season, and a coaching change that has not worked out as well as we thought, the Bucks should have regressed. But Giannis, who puts up a 30, 12, and 6 a night with elite defense, has almost solely kept the Bucks in championship contention. So after those 4 guys, we're down to our 5th and final spot on this team. And while I was a little hesitant to put this guy on first team, it's clear after diving into the film that Jason Tatum absolutely deserves this spot. There's certainly an argument for KD and Kawhi to be on All-NBA first team, but you can't deny Tatum the spot here after putting up almost 30 a game and being the best player on the best team in basketball. And while you could argue both KD and Kawhi have had more dominant performances this season, Tatum has the consistent elite outburst that a first-team All-NBA guy should have. So with Tatum rounding out my first team, let's move on to the second team, where Kawhi and KD are my first two guys on. Kawhi has had an incredible season on both sides of the ball, but the most astounding part to me is that he's played 68 games this season, the most he's played since 2017. And because Kawhi has had the opportunity to play more games and find his groove, he had the opportunity to lead the Clippers to a 28-7 record from the beginning of December to the All-Star break. And despite the Clippers losing some momentum these past couple of weeks, Leonard's level of play has never dipped, and if he keeps this up, the Clippers will be a dangerous team in the playoffs. As for Durant, his play has kept the injury-prone and inconsistent Suns from falling past a top 8 seed. Despite his older age and coming back from an Achilles injury just a few seasons ago, Durant is playing some of the best basketball of his career. And while his style next to Booker's limits both of their scoring outbursts, it allows the veteran Durant to pick and choose what shots he wants to take, which has ultimately helped his efficiency skyrocket this season. So with Durant and Leonard on the second team, we still have 3 more spots to fill out. And for the first of those 3 spots, I'm giving the nod to Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis has continued his all-around dominance on the offensive side of the ball by putting up new career highs in rebounds and assists while putting up 20 a game. And after shockingly being left off the All-Star roster, the 27-year-old continued his dominance by capturing the title of having the most consecutive double-doubles in NBA history and leading the Kings to an above 500 record that eclipses teams like the Suns and Lakers. And for my 4th spot, I have to give a second team nod to Anthony Edwards, whose drastic leap helped the Timberwolves jump from a play-in team to a top 3 seed in the West. Edwards has been outstanding this entire season, from his athletic finishes at the rim to his crucial defensive stops at the end of games. And as a former number 1 overall pick, Edwards has lived up to the hype and more at just 22 years old, putting up a 26, 6, and 5 a night as the leading scoring option. It's evident that Edwards is a great player, but what cements his place on the second team is his play with Cat sidelined from an injury. The Timberwolves were supposed to fall down from the standings when Cat fell out the lineup in early March, but Edwards has kept the Timberwolves near the top of the West with notable wins over the Cavs and Nuggets. So with Edwards' stellar play, he joins the All-NBA second team, and for the 5th and final spot on my second team, I'm going to go with Jalen Brunson, the Knicks point guard who has carried this team through injuries to 2 of their best players to a top seed in the East. Brunson is putting up a 28, 7, and 4 night as an extremely efficient ball handler who makes all the players around him better. And it's clear that his teammates, coaches, and the entirety of New York supports the All-Star guard, especially on the offensive side of the ball, as you could argue that his impact and the attention he attracts makes him one of the 6 or 7 most valuable players in the league on that side of the ball. Because despite his high usage rate, Brunson makes the most of it when he has possession of the ball, as he doesn't turn the ball over and always hits the open shots when the Knicks need it most. So with Brunson grabbing the last second team spot, let's move on to the third team, whose first player is going to be Devin Booker. Now Booker still has a little more work to do in the next couple of days, as he needs to play 2 more games to qualify for All-NBA awards. But once he does, it's clear Booker deserves a spot on the third team despite having a down year for his standards. Booker still put up a 27, 7, and 5 as the lead point guard for the Suns, and he showed that despite adversity and injuries to Phoenix, that he's a really reliable offensive threat that can keep the Suns in any game. And while I don't think he should be the point guard for the Suns next season, he's still adapted to his team's needs and performed well, and that part of it shouldn't be ignored when looking at end-of-the-year awards. After Booker, the next guy has to be Anthony Davis, whose consistently great play has kept the Lakers in contention to finish above 500 in a brutal Western Conference despite subpar coaching and constant injuries to his teammates. And one of the main reasons why Davis is a lock for an All-NBA team is because of his health. He's already played around 70 games, which is the most he's played in a season since 2018. And in those 70 games, he's a consistent 25-12 who plays elite defense despite the advanced stats telling you otherwise. And while guys like LeBron and D'Lo have been playing great, it feels as though Davis has finally taken the reins as the number one guy in LA. And if Davis can keep this level of play up, the Lakers are going to be a tough out in the playoffs. Going from one great defensive center to another, my third guy on All-NBA third team is going to be Rudy Gobert. I'll save some of the defensive stuff for Gobert when we talk about DPOY, but it's honestly astounding how good Gobert is on that side of the ball. And just 1 year after looking washed and potentially having one of the worst contracts in the league, Gobert has completely 180'd and regained his status as one of the, if not the, best defender in the league. We'll talk about Gobert a little more in detail in just a minute, so let's move on to the fourth spot on my All-NBA third team, and it's going to be Jaylen Brown. You may think I'm insane for putting Brown on an All-NBA team after almost all of his counting stats and advanced stats have plummeted. But the eye test is showing me that Brown has completely evolved from a passive, inefficient top option to a confident, efficient star who's willing to take a back seat when needed. And you have to give credit to Brown for carving out his role and thriving in it, as his play has propelled the Celtics to the best record in the league. It takes a certain level of player to do what Jaylen Brown has done, and because the Celtics are succeeding because of his efforts, he deserves one of the final spots on the All-NBA teams. And finally, my very last spot on my All-NBA third team is going to go to LeBron James. LeBron gets the nod over guys like Tyrese Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox, and Paul George because he's one of the most well-rounded players in the league. It would be easy to dismiss LeBron because of the past few seasons, where he hasn't shot the ball well or defended. But somehow at age 39, LeBron is having the best shooting season of his career, and while playing solid defense in the more diminished role. And while an argument against LeBron could be his team's performance, the Lakers are only a half game behind Halliburton's Pacers and a game and a half behind Fox's Kings. And compared to the rest of those teams, the Lakers don't have nearly the same amount of help as the Pacers and Kings do, and despite that, LeBron has been incredible in almost every aspect of the game. So with LeBron taking that final NBA spot, here are my 15 players on my All-NBA teams, and go ahead and comment below what changes you would make to these teams, as these lists are fluid and my opinion could easily change within the next 2 weeks. So with all NBA teams out of the way, let's take our focus to the defensive side of the ball and talk about who should take home the Defensive Player of the Year award. Now this race is clearly between two guys in Rudy Gobert and Victor Wembanyama. Let's start out by talking about the rookie Wembanyama, who's already cemented himself as one of the best defenders in the league despite his subcast being worse than subpar on the defensive side of the ball. When Wemby is on the court, the Spurs are 10.7 points per 100 possessions better on defense, and opposing teams shoot 3.7% worse from the paint. Those aren't normal numbers, especially for a rookie. And even beyond the stats, Victor's presence in the paint may already be one of the greatest in NBA history. It's ridiculous that professional basketball players have to second guess themselves when Victor is on them, and that impact is something that Gobert can't replicate. But what Gobert can boast is his team's defensive performance. And if Victor were to win this award, he would be a historical outlier. In the past 10 seasons, no Defensive Player of the Year winner had a team defense worse than third in the league. And in that same period of time, no runner-up had a defense ranked worse than 6th. Rudy Gobert fits that criteria, as the Timberwolves rank as the first defense in the league. But Wembanyama, despite his excellent play on that side of the ball, has led his team to only the 22nd ranked defense in the league. And while team defensive stats shouldn't be the main factor in determining the DPOY, it's something you have to take into consideration. And when you have two players in Wembanyama and Gobert who were very similar in their defensive impact, those team stats may be the deciding factor into why Gobert wins this award. And using those team stats to determine this award shouldn't discredit Gobert's incredible season. While he's had great defenders like Jaden McDaniels on his team, the Timberwolves are still a significantly better defense when Gobert is on the court. And statistically speaking, Gobert is actually a better rim protector than Wembanyama by a wide margin. So despite Wemby having an incredible defensive rookie season, the DPOY award should be Gobert's to lose. So with Wemby and Gobert as the top 2 defenders in the league this season, we still have 3 more spots to fill on the all-defensive first team. And while this league is dominated by rangy forwards and dominant ring-protecting centers, my next 2 entrants on all-defensive first team are guards, and that's Derek White and Alex Caruso. White is having yet another stellar defensive season as the glue that holds the Celtics' top 3 defense together. And while the basic stats are nothing noteworthy, it's the effort he gives on a nightly basis that stands out to me the most. And whether that be in the half court or in transition, he just doesn't give up, and his efforts on that side of the ball have been irreplaceable to the Celtics' success. And if you look at his individual one-on-one defensive stats, his case for first team all defense somehow even gets better. Throughout the season, he held all-stars like Jalen Brunson to 17 points on 19 shots attempted, Damian Lillard to 10 points on 14 shots attempted, and Steph Curry to 5 points on 9 shots attempted. If that doesn't tell you how elite of a defender White is, I don't know what will. The same sentiments can be said for Alex Caruso, who's just a complete monster on that side of the ball, giving his all every chance he gets, even with subpar defenders surrounding him on the Bulls. And just like White, Caruso has a superb list of stars who he's locked up one-on-one, like De'Aaron Fox, who scored 16 points on 15 shots attempted, Steph Curry, who scored 7 points on 13 shots attempted, and Caruso has even locked up one of the greatest scorers ever in Kevin Durant, who only put up 13 points on 15 shots attempted against Caruso. So with White and Caruso joining Wemby and Gobert on the first team, we have one final spot left, and if I had a vote for DPOY, this next player would get my 3rd place vote. What if I were to tell you that there was an extremely underrated wing defender in the league who has held the likes of SGA, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Lauri Markkanen, and Tyrese Halliburton all under 36% shooting from the field throughout the season, while being the main catalyst for a team that is a top 10 defense in the NBA, despite not having the most talented defenders on the team? This guy is a known lockdown defender, but someone who has never made an all-defensive team, even though he probably should have made one last year. And with his lengthy frame, he's versatile, guarding the best player on the opposing team every single night, whether that be a 7-footer or a shifty guard. But no matter what type of player he defends, the result is always the same. Go ahead and lock in your guesses on who this player is before I reveal it in 3, 2, 1. If you guessed Luka Garza, you would be absolutely incorrect, as the player I'm talking about is Herb Jones. Jones has been so phenomenal this season on both sides of the ball, to the point where he's quickly becoming one of the most valuable players in the league, considering he makes only $13 million a year. So with Jones grabbing my final spot on the all-defensive first team, let's move on to the second team, where we're going to start with the NBA's steals leader, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mentioned Shai's defense in his MVP argument, but his defensive efforts are completely different than the guys I've mentioned previously. Because Shai is so dominant offensively, the Thunder will of course try to preserve his energy as much as possible on defense. So while Shai is routinely guarding the second or third option on opposing teams, what makes Shai so dangerous as a defender is his off-ball abilities, where he's arguably the best player in the league in the passing lanes, averaging 3.6 deflections per game, tied for the second best mark in the league. So Shai secures an all-defensive second team appearance for me, and joining him on the second team will be former Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo. While Giannis isn't the same impact defender he was 3 years ago, he's still one of the most versatile defenders in the league, with his extreme length and athleticism frustrating superstars on a nightly basis. The stats won't support Giannis in a way you'd think, but what really stands out to me are his on-off numbers, where the Bucks allow 3.5 points per 100 possessions less when Giannis isn't on the court. I know that number isn't massive compared to other guys on this list, but what this is telling me is that even with mostly subpar defenders on this team, Giannis is making a big impact on that side of the ball. And the team stats are backing up my theory, as the Bucks have made a huge leap from one of the bottom 5 defenses in the league in November and December to a statistically league average defense now in April. So with Shai and Giannis on my all-defensive second team, we have 3 more spots to fill out. And the first one is almost a no-brainer in my mind, and that's Bam Adebayo. When you think of the Miami Heat, one of the first things that will come to your mind is defense. Miami has installed an excellent defensive culture that has led them to the finals in 2 of the last 4 seasons. And recently, the backbone of that culture has been Bam Adebayo, whose versatility as a big man has carried the Heat to the 5th best defense in the league this year. Adebayo makes the all-defensive team mostly based on the eye test, because if you sit down and watch some Heat games, you can see how Adebayo can wreck an opposing team's sets. And the stat that proves the eye test correct is his play in the half court, where he allows about 8.4 points per 100 possessions less when he's on the floor, which is in the 96th percentile in the NBA. Someone who has a similar impact on his team's defense is my next player on the all-defensive team, Anthony Davis. While the stats aren't as friendly to Davis like with Adebayo, the eye test is certainly there. And if it weren't for Davis's impact on the defensive side of the ball, the Lakers would not be in the position they're in at all. I mean, just look at the Lakers roster right now and tell me with a straight face that there are more than 3 above average defenders that get real PT. His efforts on that side of the ball have been extremely impressive to me, and for that reason, he gets the second to last spot on my all-defensive second team. And for my final spot, I considered at least 5 different guys, but I ultimately went with Jalen Suggs, and here's why. Suggs has been completely reinvented the past few seasons as the effort guy who will give his all throughout the game, especially on defense. And those efforts are shown on a nightly basis when he locks up the opposing team's best guard, like Donovan Mitchell or De'Aaron Fox or Jamal Murray. And while the Magic's second best defense in the league isn't all on him, he's definitely one of the biggest factors to their success. So with that, here's what my all-defensive teams are looking like, and again, comment below who you think I snubbed on this list. And before we get to our final part of this video, let's go through some rapid-fire awards. For Most Improved Player, I actually went against the odds-on favorite in Tyrese Maxey and went with Coby White. I was fully on the Maxey train until a sports media personality brought up a good point. Should Maxey win Most Improved Player when his improvement is pretty much just him filling in the shot attempts left behind by James Harden? I thought that was an interesting point, because while it doesn't cover the leap in playmaking and the way Maxey has adapted being a first or second option, it's a completely valid point. Maxey is averaging almost 6 more points per game, but that's only because he's taking 20 shots per contest, up 5 from last year. And if you look at his actual shooting splits, they've fallen significantly, from shooting 48% from the field and 43% from 3 last year, to now shooting 45% from the field and 37% from 3. So instead, I'm going with Coby White to win Most Improved Player, who has increased his shooting percentages slightly while jumping up almost 10 points per game. And besides, this award should go to the role player who blossoms into a quality starter. So congratulations, Coby. I hope your success continues. On to the 6th Man of the Year award now, and while I originally had Malik Monk as my winner, he recently went down with an injury that will keep him sidelined for the rest of the year. And as much as I still want to go with Monk, Naz Reid has been absolutely incredible for the Timberwolves since Cat went down, so I think I'm going to switch my vote to Reid. Reid has been on fire on the offensive side of the ball this season, shooting a ridiculous 40% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, and thriving as that spark off the bench when Cat gets subbed out. And while Reid only plays 24 minutes a game, he makes his time on the floor worthwhile and fills up the stat sheet. I'm curious to see how Minnesota continues to handle their 3 big man situation, but as long as all 3 guys are happy in their roles, there's no reason as to why it won't continue to work. Now let's go to Coach of the Year, where the clear winner to me is Mark Daigneault of the OKC Thunder. It's very rare to see a team so young succeed so much, and while their talent pool is absolutely loaded, part of the credit has to go to Daigneault, who has ignited this team to a top seed in the West and kept this team on track to finish strong in April. I will say before I move on though, that Jamal Mosley of the Orlando Magic made a really strong push in my mind to take over this spot, and I could absolutely see him one day winning this award as a coach of the Magic. And finally, before we move on to the rookie teams, let's move on to an award that's already been forgotten about just 1 season after being introduced, and that's Clutch Player of the Year. This award feels kind of pointless because most people who vote for it just go off the clutch stats the NBA provides. So for that reason, DeMar DeRozan is the clear runaway favorite, and I guess he's going to win this award, though I wish the award went to someone whose team is better. But Bulls fans, just imagine that before the season I told you that your favorite team would win not one, but 2 end of the year awards. You'd probably think your team is back contending for an NBA title. But instead, you're going to get bounced by the Hawks without Trae Young in the first round of the play-in, and your front office is probably going to use these end-of-the-year awards as an excuse to run it back with the same core. So I guess you have that to look forward to. Anyways, let's get on to the final part of this video where we're going to talk about the rookies. The Rookie of the Year race is almost already set, with Victor Wembanyama being the clear-cut favorite to win the award. I don't think I need to tell you how great Wemby is and how much he deserves this award. So instead, let's move on to the all-rookie teams, where of course Wembanyama and the presumed Rookie of the Year runner-up Chet Holmgren will be on the first team. I feel bad for Holmgren considering how great he's been this entire season. It's just unfortunate he was injured last season and wasn't able to give Paolo a great competition for the Rookie of the Year award. Instead, he'll have to settle for second place and a spot on the all-rookie first team. Joining these two 7-footers on the first team are Brandon Miller, Jaime Jaquez, and Brandon Podziemski. Miller has been outstanding his first year in the league, proving to many, including myself, why Charlotte should have taken him second overall. And while I'm certainly keeping my Scoot stock, I'd be insane to say he's been nearly as impactful this season as Brandon Miller has been. Miller has all the makings to be a star in this league, and puts some hope in Charlotte fans' hearts for the first time in a long time. Alongside Miller is Jaime Jaquez, who completely surprised me with his early season performances for the Miami Heat. I thought he would be a good player, but never did I expect him to come out the gate like this. Jaquez has been a positive on both sides of the ball, even with injuries to key players for long stretches of the season. And honestly, for a team like the Heat, that's all you can really ask for, especially for the 18th pick in the draft. And rounding out the first team is Brandon Podziemski. There's not much to say about Brandon other than the fact that he's just a really solid all-around player who can hit some threes and put some effort on the defensive side of the ball. And just like Jaquez with the Heat, there's nothing more you could really ask for out of the rookie. However, I will say, despite both of those guys' performances this season, I was really tempted to put some guys on the second team above them, the first being Amen Thompson of the Rockets. Amen didn't really hit a game's threshold I would like from a player on first team all-rookie, but his efforts on both sides of the ball, especially defense, made me really consider bumping him up. There's just certain guys in the league who have a certain it factor, who come at the gates looking ready to play NBA basketball. And Amen is just that, and I'm truly hoping the Rockets can utilize his talents and continue progressing the weaker areas of his games, like shooting, to make him an all-around threat that can play multiple positions. Another guy who could have easily made a case to make the first team was Keyonte George, whose 13-5-3 for the Jazz has proven to many, including myself, that he could easily be a part of their future. The only problem with George is his efficiency, which sits at an abysmal 39% from the field and 33% from 3. But those types of numbers are expected from a rookie guard who doesn't have a true playmaker at the point guard position. Next up, I decided to put Scoot on an all-rookie team despite him not having the most ideal rookie season. He was unfortunately thrown into the fire on one of the worst teams in the league with the task of being the future after Damian Lillard was traded. And while he started to look slightly better as of late, he still looks young and inexperienced. But honestly, that's okay. It's not normal for a rookie to come out the gates and dominate the game. And I still have faith that Scoot will turn it around. But as for his rookie season, he put up a 13-5-3 a night with poor efficiency and a lot of turnovers and fouls a night. The potential was certainly there, the question is whether Scoot can put it all together. For the fourth spot, I went with Ausar Thompson of the Pistons. Ausar, like his brother Amen, is a really solid all-around threat who has a lot of potential to be a contributing piece for the Pistons. Almost everything I said about Amen could be said about Ausar. I just values Amen's contributions to a 500 team more than Ausar's contributions on the worst team in the league. But right now, my focus is on Ausar missing the rest of the season with blood clots, and I truly hope he can come back stronger next year and show the potential he flashed in the first half of the season. And for the final spot on the all-rookie second team, I'm going with Derek Lively, the Mavericks big man who thrived in the first half of the season as a lob threat and shot blocker. Lively came out this season and exceeded all my expectations for him, and while his role was taken over by Daniel Gafford, Lively still contributes an effective 20 minutes a night for a playoff team. I'm curious to see how Lively progresses, considering his game is likely limited because he doesn't have much of a jump shot. But even if he improves as a rim runner and defender, he's going to be in this league for many years to come. So here is my final all-rookie team. Again, go ahead and comment below who I missed on this list. And that does it for me. If you reached this point in the video, thank you for watching, and remember to like and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me as this video took way too long to make. And if you want to see more videos like this one, go ahead and drop any video ideas you have in the comments below. Until then, my name is Julian with TalkBackSports, and I'll see you next time.